The life and works of Dorothea Lange. Dorothea Lange was originally born Dorothea Nuthorn on May 26, 1895 in Hoboken, New Jersey, to Heinrich and Joanna Nuthorn. Dorothea had one sibling, a brother by the name of Martin. When Dorothea was only 7 years old, she contracted polio, which weakened her right leg and foot, which caused her to have a limp for the rest of her life. However, Dorothea was appreciative of what her illness put her through because she felt it shaped her to be the person that she was. When Dorothea was a teenager, her father abandoned the family and was never seen again. So Dorothea's mom moved to New York where she found a job and moved her and her son in with her grandmother. Now, art and literature were big parts of Lange's upbringing due to her parents being strong advocates for her education. And she was exposed to creative works throughout her entire childhood. After graduating from high school, Lange went to the New York Training School for Teachers in 1913. Due to little interest in academics, Lange decided to pursue photography as a profession after working in a New York studio for a short period of time as a portrait photographer. Dorothea took Clarence White's photography class at Columbia University, and over the next several years, Dorothea worked as an apprentice to various photographers, including Arnold Jentz. By 1918, she had changed her name to her mother's maiden name, Lange, and moved to San Francisco. By 1919, Lange was running her own studio, and in March of 1920, Lange married a muralist by the name of Maynard Dixon, whom she had 2 sons with and had gained a stepdaughter. Lange didn't really experience documentary photography until the late 1920s when she traveled around the Southwest with her husband, where she mostly photographed Native Americans. During the Great Depression, Lange photographed the unemployed men who wandered the streets. Most of the captions presented with the photographs were the words of the workers themselves. Now, most of these men had traveled west to escape the Dust Bowl or had lost their farms due to the decline in the cost of cotton. Now, the men who were farmers received semi-monthly relief checks. By the early 1930s, Lange became unhappy in her marriage due to stress and the livelihood of her and her husband. This led to them both living in their own separate studios. In the summer of 1934, Dorothea had her first exhibition in the studio of Willard Van Drake. This first exhibition established her reputation as a skilled documentary photographer. During her exhibition, Lange was introduced to Paul Taylor, who was an economics professor. Taylor and Lange began to collaborate and found themselves in love soon after. Taylor and Lange eventually divorced their spouses and were married on December 6, 1935. They spent the next 5 years traveling quite a bit and documented the rural hardships they encountered along the way with the Farm Security Administration, which was a camp for migratory workers. Now, Taylor wrote reports while Lange photographed the many people that they had met. This led to Lange's most well-known portrait, Migrant Mother. This image was so iconic during this time because it captured the hardship and pain of what so many Americans were experiencing in an elegant way. As of today, the photograph hangs in the Library of Congress. Lange also captured a mother in California who was being relocated to Oklahoma by the Relief Administration with her husband and her 2 children. The couple had 3 children but lost their 2-year-old baby because of exposure during the winter. In 1940, Lange became the first woman to be awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship. This fellowship was only awarded to anyone who showed exceptional creativity in the arts, or they showed they had an outstanding capacity for productive scholarships. In 1941, after America joined World War II, Lange was hired by the War Relocation Authority to photograph the confinement of the Japanese Americans. The children of these immigrants were required to wear identification tags. Now, Lange was hired again by the WRA in 1945 to document the San Francisco Conference, which was when the United Nations was created. Over the next 2 decades, Lange co-founded a small publishing house that produced high-end photography books, took assignments from Life magazine, and traveled through Utah, Ireland, and Death Valley. Lange also accompanied her husband on his assignments in Pakistan, Korea, and Egypt. Lange documented everything she saw during these trips. For example, while in Egypt to consult the University of Alexandria, she snapped a photograph that she later named Woman and Child in the Nile Village. What's truly amazing is that Lange did all of this while dealing with increasing health issues. Lange was actually working on an exhibit of her work for the New York Museum of Modern Art while slowly dying of an inoperable cancer. Lange eventually passed away on October 11, 1965, at the age of 70 from esophageal cancer. Lange had unfortunately passed away shortly before her new exhibit was to be opened. In 1967, a book was published with Dorothea's photography entitled Dorothea Lange Looks at the American Countrywoman. Many other books were written that included many of her photographs. Lange had hoped that through her work, society would correct the injustices that she had shown them. And though her work did not inspire change, it has greatly influenced many generations of photographers.